Welcome to What's New, the podcast that keeps you up to date on all things new in New Orleans. I'm Tim Williamson, and each episode I talk with people who are pushing the boundaries and making an impact in our city. So sit back, relax, and just remember, what if it works? Welcome to What's New.
What's new?
What's New, the podcast from the New Society, talking about new things. And actually, we're talking about new things with something very cool. What's this called?
I think it says on your device Hollyland, at least
The
some
Hollyland mic. So I'm here with Brent McCrossen. So before we get into a secret weapon for entrepreneurs, introduce yourself a little bit about your interest in startups.
Yeah, certainly. So Brent McCrossen, officially number 104 here in New Society. And I'm a New Orleans kid, born and raised. I did move to Seattle in the late 90s to kind of cut my entrepreneurial teeth out there. Started my first venture-backed company up in Seattle in 2008. It's a company called Audio Socket. It's a music licensing technology company. Very quickly opened a small satellite office down here. And then when the digital media tax credits came online, I convinced my board of directors to let me move the tech team from a tech hub to New Orleans.
Come back home.
Exactly, which is I was aiming for that from day one.
With your beautiful wife and new
Yep,
kids.
exactly. My wife, Mary Bliss, and now we got two young ones, 12 and 9. And we've been home since 2010. We moved home full time. And in the end of 2018, so you call it 2019, I guess, I stepped down as CEO of Audio Socket. I got my business partner Jen to take on that role, helped her kind of recruit in some executive leadership so she would have the support to continue running the business. And then I kind of went on sabbatical for a little while and just tried to reset. And my good friend Gerard Ramos owns a company in New Orleans called Revelry, and Revelry historically has been a developer shop. They build software for Fortune 100 and early stage startups and everything in between. And he knew that I had stepped down as CEO of Audio Socket and just kind of kept my board seat over there. And our daughters were doing ballet together. So on Saturday mornings, he and I would be sitting outside at 9 a.m. drinking coffee, talking business. And he looked at me, he's like, look, man, we've added hundreds of millions in value in the partners we built software for over the years, and it's time for us to start using all this technical talent to build companies for ourselves. And he convinced me to work with him to create Revelry Startup Studio. And for the last 5.5 years, I have had the absolute delight of going 0 to 1 every day and living in problem spaces, deploying creativity to ideate and validate solutions. And when we get the right signal, create new companies. So Revelry Startup Studio has created 5 companies so far.
So it's a startup studio, you just get to create companies.
Yeah, we're a company creating factory, as I like to call it.
Well,
And the reason I love it
that is a cool job.
is like we get enough signal on something, we agree, like we've got conviction, we're gonna spin it out, and then we recruit in CEOs, and it becomes that person's problem. So obviously, like, as the managing director of the studio, every one of those companies I care about, I will never leave them in the lurch. We're a co-founder, but the CEOs get to run it and deal with all the the day-to-day stuff, and I get to go back to the beginning and look for another problem to solve.
You get to
and
birth
idea
the baby.
solution. Exactly. It's a lot of fun.
Oh my God.
I love Audio Socket. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 25. I've worked for myself, and I'm now 51. So there's no going back on this stuff, but this idea of running a startup studio is so perfect fit for me because I just like to have my hands in a lot of different pies. I'm eternally inquisitive, very curious about the world, and I get to just explore problems and ideate solutions all day long.
Well, I know you've been such an amazing asset for the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem and the amount of the mentorship and support for so many entrepreneurs. You're onto something here. You've got a new idea and something that we're working on, a new project, and Lindsay and I went to you and we were completely blown away. So tell us a little bit what you're working on behind the scenes, some breaking news.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite wild, right? So the genesis of what I'm working on is actually kind of created by something we already built, right? So last year, in towards the end of 2023, I guess, Gerard, given Revelry Labs has whatever 60 engineers, designers, whatever, he was hearing a lot of concern. Oh, AI, the robots are going to take our jobs, and Gerard's like super inquisitive. He's like, oh, maybe they will. Let's find out. So he was already tooling around with all the LLMs for years, right? But now that they were becoming commercially available, he started to explore this idea of what does it mean, or how capable is it to leverage these AI platforms to accelerate what Revelry does as a company, which is build software. And we got pretty strong conviction on that early on. It wasn't so much writing the code as much as it was the product management layer, right? So people who are in charge of product vision and direction, and then working with engineers to build what customers are asking for, right? And it was extremely effective at that. So, he brought in a friend of his who's got decades of product management experience at groups like The Gap and Williams-Sonoma. She basically brought them
Heather.
online. Heather is her name. And, Heather was really kind of ideating and validating this entire concept, which we call ProdOps, which stands for Product Operations. And got strong conviction. We agreed to spin it out. Heather is the CEO of that now. And it's a really powerful tool. So it's not just some kind of generic chat GTP wrapper. It's way more powerful than that. It's LLM agnostic, so it uses OpenAI, it uses Gemini, it can use Claude, Llama.
An LLM is what?
Large language model.
Okay, so
right.
Okay.
So it basically just AI.
Yep.
Right. It can use any and all of them. And what makes it extremely powerful is that it connects to all of your data. So like GitHub or Jira, which are kind of code repository platforms, or Google Drive, which is like where all of your business information probably sits, integrates with Slack. Basically your tools, where your data lives, gets connected to this platform. And then rather than like most people do, is they open up Chat GPT and they write a prompt, and then maybe they upload a file to it, and then they go, oh, I gotta copy and paste that prompt and reuse it again for a different use case. All that's eliminated, and it's got prompt libraries that just enable extreme amounts of repeatability. And as this started getting used internally, like they were building the product by using the product, I was seeing the engineering teams and the product management teams getting insane levels of productivity, like 40+% increase. And I'm like, this is like really interesting. I want that for myself, right?
So it would take them an hour, it would take them 5 minutes?
Yeah, effectively, like a lot of the things that are often done as a product manager is like writing user stories, right? Which is basically a ticket of requirements that some engineer needs to read and go write the code to do it. Those things can take anywhere between 15 minutes an hour to write, depending on how complex the feature is for that user story. This belts them out in like 5 seconds, right? Oh. So I started like kind of exploring, what if because I'm not an engineer, I don't know how to write code, put a gun to my head. I was like, what if I kind of took all of the Startup Studio frameworks, right? Which are, that's the beauty of it. They're frameworks that we use to ideate and validate business ideas, which frameworks happen to be extremely useful in props, right? So I basically took the entire Startup Studio process of, ideating and validating business ideas, and I ingested those frameworks into the platform to see if it would work. I didn't know if it was gonna or not. I was highly skeptical, because my job is to like kill confirmation bias and ruin, destroy bad ideas quickly and move on to the next thing. But the more I pushed the system, the more it worked. And I'm like, holy cow. So at this point,
what does working mean? So when you say working,
it's allowing me to take a process of ideating, validating startup ideas, which can last for months, right, and moving and processing ideas extremely quickly. Like the ideation process alone, which would normally take, depending on the problem space we're exploring and kind of our rooted knowledge and background in it, anywhere between a week to 2.5 weeks. I can have all of that baseline ideation work done. So like defining the problem, the hypothesis, design challenge, a positioning statement, the idea itself, who is it for, why do they care, what problem does it solve, what else might they be using, market research, competitor analysis, value proposition canvases, like that whole part of the ideation process done in like, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
So if I'm sitting here at the bar and I have a drink and I have an idea, or I'm starting a company, right now, I'll think about it, I'll talk about it, jot my book, talk to friends, they tell me it stinks, maybe hire a consultant. It's probably a couple weeks. I could go to you and do what? So I'm coming to you, and now what?
Basically, you just give me a 2 or 3 word statement of what problem you want to solve, and I will kick out the entire ideation process for you in a matter of minutes.
Okay, that's crazy. You and I have been involved in starting so many ideas as well as hearing so many people. It's exhausting. It takes forever. You're telling me an entrepreneur can accelerate that ideation phase of their process?
In minutes. And this was a really powerful moment, and I can't mention the name of the group. But our crew knew, our CEO group, right? We went and toured a thing recently, and I met a founder who's not a part of our group at all. He's actually from out of the state, and he's working on a kind of a live events experience thing.
Yeah, I know.
And he's got a famous late night talk show host as an investor. Like, this company has got traction. It's still in development. It's not yet launched. Yep. And we were talking, and he's like, Brent, the problem I have is that the vision of this thing is so rich, I can't figure out a way to condense and tell that story.
Yep.
So I'm like, you know what? Do me a favor, just jump on my schedule, and we're gonna do a half-hour phone call together. I didn't know anything about his company. I had no information on it whatsoever. We jumped on a call. I opened this platform. I said, do you have a PDF or anything about your business whatsoever? And he sent me a single file, and in a matter of minutes, I was giving him Facebook ad copy, brand positioning statements, an investor pitch deck, everything.
Come on.
And he looked at me, and I wrote down the quote here.
He cried.
He's like, for almost a year and a half, we've been struggling with how do we condense the vision of our company, and you just did it in minutes with this tool. It's powerful.
So where are you in your ideation? So do you have a name of the company? Is there a company?
It's not yet. So
not
basically
yet?
what I'm doing is I'm taking the thing we already built and spun out, which is called ProdOps, and I'm building an entire new platform on top of it, which we're calling AiDea Lab.
AiDea Lab.
AiDea Lab.
All right.
Right. And AiDea Lab uses the power of ProdOps, which is any LLM and all of your data
That's the back
and
end.
prompt libraries
That's the back end.
and vector databases to deliver for entrepreneurs, startups, accelerators, even corporate innovation teams, a platform for them to ideate, validate, and launch their ideas at lightning speed. And where we're at in the process is later this week or early next, I'm basically just announcing that this is available for people to sign up and use it. The landing page will have the technology integrated, so you can type in a problem and you're gonna get a problem statement, design challenge, hypothesis, brand positioning statement, idea napkin, and value proposition canvas, like from one input, right? And then based on the signal and the demand, my job as running a startup studio is to kill bad ideas. If nobody wants it, screw it. We won't launch it. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use this tool for the rest of my life. I can't do my work without it. It'd be painful to go back to the old ways. But there's 800 plus startup studios in America. There are probably at least as many accelerator programs. And 30,000 new businesses get built every year? I want to be the platform for all of those entrepreneurs to make sure they're building the right thing the first time, so we can help de-risk startup ideas and give startups greater odds of success. Let's eliminate or greatly reduce that statistic, 90% of all startups fail. Let's move that number from 90 to 50 with a platform like this. Let's move it to 10% if we can. I don't know, but that's the thesis.
Let's talk about New Orleans, because you and I have been doing this for 15, 20 years in New Orleans. We have capital now, we have accelerators, venture studios, successful entrepreneurs. It's now time to start more businesses? How do we encourage more entrepreneurs? It sounds like your tool can do that. So what do you need? How do we help you test this out?
I mean, ultimately, at this stage of the game, if you're an entrepreneur, or even if you don't think of yourself as an entrepreneur, you're just building something, or you have an interest in building something, come use this thing. Like, I'll give you free access. It's not going to cost you a dime. I'm just trying to figure out where and how it's useful to you. Every startup studio that I've shown it to, which so far I've had 4 different discussions with friends of mine that run studios around the country, every one of them's like, I need an account today.
Yeah.
Right? So now it's like, what does the independent entrepreneur, how useful can this tool be to them? Even if you've already launched your idea, there's entire frameworks in here to spit out, as I was mentioning in that other example with the founder who's got a company that's launching, like the ability to create landing page copy and Facebook ads and, all the rest of pitch decks, executive summaries, you name it. So come use it is the ultimate way you can be helpful to me right now and help me either kill this idea or get conviction that somebody else should have it instead of just me, because I'm having way too much fun using this tool. I feel like it's an unfair advantage, as you put it, a secret weapon for entrepreneurs. Like, I've got that all of myself, and it's a lame party when it's just a party of one. So,
Well, I think I told you, Lindsay and I are working on this project, and I've been asking Lindsay to, get me an executive summary, and she finally said, I don't know how to do an executive summary. And so we sat down with you, and within 5 minutes, exactly, we had the napkin, the summary, the content, and we took all of that and created the executive summary literally in 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, all of it. Each
and
one of those things
it was taking us
leads
2
into
weeks
the
of
other.
going back and forth. We had the thing ready to present. It feels like this is a tool ripe for this ecosystem to encourage more people to start. So something you and I talked about, perhaps office hours is a way to introduce some of the folks listening.
That'd be fun.
Huh? Would
That'd
you
be
do that?
fun, yeah.
So if we were to host you here and people could sign up and basically go through a quick, what do you call it, like a ideation session?
Ideation validation session.
An ideation validation session with AI
AiDea Labs.
AiDea Labs. Maybe we could, if we could do 25 of those, would that be a goal? If we
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh my God.
And what if the outcome of that is we've got 25 new companies?
Right.
Right. And if you already have a company,
So anybody
you
with
can still participate.
anybody with an
because-
idea can just come and just sort of vet it out.
Exactly. And we've got a couple of new society members that are using it for their existing businesses.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of marketing agencies that use it to basically help implement their clients' work, not, it's human in the loop kind of stuff, right? But yeah, if you're working on a new idea, or even if you have a company that you're already running that just needs some new ideas added to it, or wants to accelerate some of your workflows and processes, like, let's do it.
Okay, so by the time we send this thing out, we're going to have the link and the hours booked, so people here listening to this can go to the link and set up a time.
I'm down. That'd be fun.
So let's end it with, Brent, I know how passionate you are about entrepreneurship, startups, and like you said, at 51, this is what you're doing. What's this product mean for you?
So, I mean, it means like a lot of exploration. So I'm building a theory, right? And working to test it out. Like, the fundamental layer that makes this thing powerful is the LLM agnostic. It rides on top of the most powerful AI in the world. You choose your poison. The repeatability of prompt templates, and then the connection to all of your data to generate these outputs. And we started with AI for product delivery. Now we're testing out AI for, startup, studio, entrepreneur ideation and validation. But I think there are kind of verticalized approaches to building numerous applications on top of this core technology.
Yep.
So much like the idea that you all are exploring is like, what does it mean to manage a community at scale? How do these tools apply to that? I have a friend of mine who is a social worker. She's already using some AI tools in her work, and she's having she doesn't like them. They're not robust enough. They're not tailored to how she does the work, right? What does it look like to apply these technologies to mental health care? What does it look like to apply it to the energy industry? There's just a lot of different places that we get to explore opportunities to build on top of this thing. And of course, it was easiest for me to start with where I work every day, which is Startup Studio land, ideation and validation. But there's already at least 5 other things that I've got on the burner that are based on conversations I've had with friends of mine who are like CEOs of major construction companies, you know, CEOs of like mental health practices, that I'm really itching to explore and validate. Like maybe half of them won't work, maybe half of them will, I don't know. But where I'm sitting right now is just an opportunity of exploration, innovation that gets me out of bed more pumped than I've been in a long time, and I'm generally always pumped to get out of bed.
Well, it feels like, we've talked about launching the new society to inspire a creative renaissance, and can new technology do that? And here we are, you're using this technology to drive your passion. I mean, if you can build a business out of your passion, you can do it forever. We're using this technology to help do something we're doing anyway, doing it better. But if by your leadership and everything we're doing, encouraging more people here to what is your passion, or what are you doing every day, and to build an app on top of the LLMs to make your life better, there might be this creative explosion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it will be, no matter what. To me, the question is, how do we make sure we've got our position in it, and we can be the enabler of all of that? And I don't mean we as in like, AiDea Labs or even Revelry Startup Studio. I mean us as a community, even New Society as a platform, supporting each other and really encouraging each other's curiosity to get out there and get after it. Because the world is changing. I think we can make a change for the better, especially if we're involved in the direction of it.
Well, it starts right here, Brent. One, thank you very much. I love this interview at the bar.
That's great.
It's perfect. But feels like your tool could be that catalyst for this renaissance. So thank you for doing what you do. With this podcast, we're going to have the link. We're going to set up some office hours. And so if anyone's interested, whatever idea you have that you're trying to explore, we're going to do some office hours here at the New Society, and let's kick it off.
No matter how big or small, let's hang out, let's get it done, let's process greatness and explore what's next.
Brent, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
All right.
Cheers.
Take care. Cheers.